Like, I mean, obviously I want it to be read, but I don't know how it would feel satisfying to have people read it if I hadn't written it, if they thought I had.
Welcome to Luddite Sessions, where I talk to authors, artists, and thinkers about their work, their process, and how they use technology. Today, I'm speaking with Laura McPhee-Browne about her latest book, Worry Doll, about two women meeting on a train and their resulting affair in a story that examines desire, memory, and the delusion of love. Laura, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for speaking with me.
Thanks, Ruby.
So we're not going to get into spoilers today, but I do have a couple of questions about the book. Part of what it does so well is demonstrate how technology can enable our worst limerence-fueled impulses. Do you think technology makes having a crush more dangerous?
Yeah. Yes, I think it does. I think back to when I was a teenager and we didn't have social media. I'm 41, so I think like Facebook came out, I don't even know, 2005 maybe, and I was like out of high school. Thank God, because I just don't know what I would have done. I was like already insane, and in the way of crushes, the most insane crushes I've ever had were at that age, and so I just don't really. I mean, I have experienced kind of, you know, having crushes on people and being able to look them up on Instagram or look at their Facebook, but for me, it's even more about, you know, I guess when you have these crush feelings for someone, you kind of want to know like everything, or in my experience, everything about them. That includes like everybody in their lives, everything they've ever done. So you're looking at their tagged photos, you're looking at who's in the photos, going on their profiles, who are they friends with, who are their exes, even people who don't really go online much. There's so much going on that you can find out. It can be like a full-time job, I guess.
It's really funny, as a lot of people say that like having a crush is a lack of information, and you would think that doing all of this research would enable you to kind of kill it. Like you find out everything you could possibly know, but because everything that's online is so idealized and like aestheticized, it just makes it worse. Like it gives you supporting information for any quality that you're already projecting on this person.
Exactly. Whereas if it's someone that you know, that you know from school or from work, like you're seeing them in real life, and like maybe you won't continue to have that crush once you get to know them. But if it's someone that you've, you know, don't know that well, or you've met online, or I mean, I think as well you can have a crush on someone you've never met for sure in real life, and then you're just fueling it because nothing's real on there, and you can never really get the full picture. So yeah.
And if they stop responding to you, you can just keep looking it up.
Exactly. And until they block you. Like that's kind of, you're not really, it's almost dangerous for someone who's kind of crushing on someone else. Yeah.
So without getting into spoilers, the book features teeth. We're all familiar with lovers trading locks of hair or jewelry or photographs of one another. Why teeth?
Well, I guess I just wanted it to be like a bit weird, like and intense, and you know, it seems unhinged. What happens around the teeth seems more unhinged because it is a tooth. I can't speak to it too much, but I guess also being a baby tooth is kind of like something extremely intimate, or like in not in a kind of like in a, you know, this is a part of my history. And, you know, when the rest of the book, I kind of wanted the reader to feel like they don't really know anything in the end about the characters. There's also this element of like them trying to show each other something really real. But is that actually possible? The choice of a tooth, though, I can't really speak to other than it just sort of happened. I don't really know why. But
it is kind of the creepiest option that has shelf life.
Yeah.
There's
exactly.
no additional like rotting aspect to it.
No, yeah. And they can be quite beautiful teeth, I think. Like I love the image of a tooth and the tooth emoji and all those things. So yeah.
There's a lot of good emojis for this book.
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
Switching from technology to nature, the weather is a strong tension-building force in the book between a muggy Melbourne summer and the frigid winds of Wellington. Is this intended to reflect the characters' diametrically opposed attachment styles or something else?
I guess I've always wanted to write about the Melbourne summer because I think it's not really what you would expect it to be if you've never lived there. I don't think people really realize like how hot it can get and how growing up, like we would have heat waves that would last in summer for like weeks. And that doesn't seem to happen quite as much now, but they were really intense times. Like you couldn't sleep. No, I mean, I didn't grow up with any air conditioning. No one I knew had, like we were just sort of surviving. Everything was hazy. Like you'd go outside and the heat would be so strong that the air would be rippling, and you're so really just like getting through until the cool change. It's so different from living in a place or being in a place where heat is kind of a constant because you just don't expect it in Melbourne, I guess. Like when I try to explain it to people, I'm in America at the moment and I've tried to explain to people our weather, but I don't think it doesn't really make sense. We get quite cold, but we get hot, but we don't really do either very well. We're kind of like just very confused. So I wanted to write a week, kind of like a really hot week in Melbourne. And then I also wanted to write, I didn't want to write the same season. I wanted it to be the opposite. But I also wanted to write about like the wind in Wellington and how kind of grey and windy it can be there. So I just decided to do it 18 months later rather than a year later, which would mean that it would be the same because they're both in the Southern Hemisphere. So I just enjoy what kind of extreme weather can do to characters. You know, in Eloise's section, well, actually in both sections, there's storms. And originally I had the name of each day. So because each character has 1 week and it starts on Sunday to Saturday, I had like the meaning of each day when the days were first named, like the Greek kind of meaning behind each day. And I was kind of basing each day around what the meaning was. And like Thursday is the day of storms. So there was a storm on Thursday. But then I just thought, no, it's getting a bit confused. So I took those out. But I still really was focusing on weather. And then because Lacey is working in a field where the weather is part of that, it kind of all came from there
so it's just
as well.
A great coincidence, really. Speaking of the fields that the characters work in the first half, Heloise is dealing with fallibility in human-based work, in social work. And in the second half, Lacey is struggling with it in the STEM sphere. What was your inspiration for including those different kinds of existential threats in a book otherwise about desire, memory, and the delusion of love?
I wanted my characters to have kind of jobs or to have something that they were doing that wasn't just obsessing or crushing or wandering around, which is often what my characters do. They just wander around. But I wanted them to actually have something they were doing, because also I think if you put a character in a situation where they're supposed to be engaged in this, but actually they're engaged in this obsession or this worry, then it really helps to see how debilitating it is or how all-encompassing it is. And I my sort of like paid job is a social worker and counsellor. So I've actually worked in a job that was very similar to that when I was studying, like before I got my full qualifications. So I just wanted to write about it because I just wanted to write about it as well. Like that house where those women live, like that is a real experience I've had that still is with me. And I just felt like the character of Eloise suited that kind of, you know, she's supposed to be working with people and caring about people, and she sort of knows that she's not really doing a very good job and she's a bit lost, and she's not engaging in her work the way that she should be. But the fact that she's sort of aware of that, like I wanted her to be pretty unlikable, but then also kind of like slipping in and out of being aware that something's not right. Like she's not living life the way she wants to, or And with Lacey, my partner is actually an aerospace engineer. So they were able to help me write some of those bits with Lacey. And I wanted her to have a very different kind of mind to Eloise, like scientific and I guess like left brain, right brain kind of stuff as well. So yeah,
that was definitely very clear. That was part of what makes the perspective shift so interesting, is that these two outlooks on life like could not be more different.
Yeah.
So there's a scene where Lacey is asked a question by her professor while she's daydreaming in class, and without having heard it, she manages to answer it correctly, kind of flub her way through. But it was such a perfect representation to me of how large language models can seem to provide answers to user queries without the actual process of thinking. I wondered how you use technology while writing this book.
So I always write on a laptop. I never write by hand. So I guess like I'm always using a computer. I can't write by hand because like I don't know what I would have done. I probably wouldn't be an author if it wasn't now, because I don't enjoy writing by hand. I don't like the fact that I have to cross things out, write them again. I don't like to do like stream of consciousness where I can't edit as I go. Like editing for me happens as I go very much. So I can be working on one sentence or paragraph for like a whole day and then that's just done. And I don't know if that's for the best. It's just the way, like I can't bear to just leave it and be like, oh, that's probably needs a lot of work, but I'll just come back to it later. Like I just don't like that feeling. So I always write on my laptop. I write in Scrivener because I like Scrivener because it has chapters. You can probably do that in Word, but I don't know. I just like Scrivener for that. I like to write in a certain font and I don't really take notes and I don't really do any mapping. I just write on the Scrivener chapter page. The one thing that, I mean, I don't know if this really answers the question, but I don't really use, I guess, like technology really, because I don't really do a lot of research either. It's kind of all very intuitive and kind of, I'd like to do more research in the future, but I don't really do that at the moment. But I do often like Google synonyms and I really take a lot of time to choose like the right word. So if I didn't have the internet, I'd have to have a thesaurus with me at all times. Yes.
So was because all of the scientific stuff,
that was all from my partner.
So that's research. That's
true.
Research.
I just like, yeah, exactly. That was
still lived
the
experience.
First time I've done that. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And in my previous book, Little Plum, like I took a lot from my job. So I guess like that is research. But yeah, I don't know if that answers the technology question though.
It does.
Yeah.
I think what's been interesting recently is all of these discussions about, every artist uses the tools available to them at the time. And it's like, not all of them.
No.
It's not that every time a new thing launches, everyone goes, I'll just throw out my established process because this seems like it might be slightly more efficient.
Yeah, and
efficiency and art don't really go together.
No, and I find it like such a funny thing to talk about because it's like I never thought I was precious about like writing or my creative practice. Like I can't even say that without doing, but I got really upset about something I read about just an author talking. You probably know who I'm talking about, but there was a quote from an author, one of my favorite all-time authors, and she said, "I've been using it. I'm going to continue using AI to write." And I just was like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like I can't fathom. Like why are you doing it? Because to me, it's not at all. I mean, the writing I do, and I believe the writing she does, isn't about productivity or getting the next thing out, and and that's a privilege because I don't live off my writing, so I don't have to be pumping out the books and having to sell a certain amount of copies in order to survive. Commercial fiction wise, I think there are some authors that can do that, but it's pretty rare that they're able to live off their writing. It just kind of feels like the opposite of what creative writing is to me, to be using a tool to help you to do it when the very process of it is what is so beautiful as a writer. Like that's what is why. Like, I mean, obviously I want it to be read, but I don't know how it would feel satisfying to have people read it if I hadn't written it. If they thought I had. I don't.
Well, what that author has come out with a clarifying statement about how they use AI.
Okay. Yeah.
Allegedly saying that they were misquoted. Multiple translations have now been done and it doesn't seem like they were, but they've said they use it for research and kind of to give them more detail and texture around their characters. Like, I'm writing in a certain time period, tell me what song they would have listened to. And that's still sad to me because I think a big part of giving authentic color to something is doing what you did, actually, and going and speaking to someone with experience or consulting relevant sources from the time period or the place that you're writing about to ensure that it's real and not just the most statistically likely response because it's been on 18 paid listicles. Because that's the other thing about training data is there's so much stuff on the internet that on the aggregate looks like it was popular, but if you click on the sources, you'll find out it's like advertorials that have been put in online news sources because that is a big part of how they still get revenue. And if everyone's using it for research, we get to a point where it all gets filtered down to this neat paid for version that doesn't really have any resemblance to the time or the people that it's pretending to speak about.
Totally. And it's funny though, as you were saying that, I was like, oh, maybe that's a great idea. Maybe I will use it to research certain things. But I mean, I think even just Googling something, you know, you're still the one who's going through and looking at what these search results are, where they come from. You know, that's actually like quite different, isn't it? From just asking ChatGPT or whatever. It's so interesting because I often don't pick up on these things very quickly. I'm a bit of a Luddite. In some ways, I'm very like tech savvy, and in other ways, I just don't try things. Like I didn't go onto Facebook until 2009, even though it came out in 2005, because I was just like, no. And then as soon as I went on, I was completely addicted to it. So it's like all or nothing. But I'm sure there are maybe things I'm not doing that would like help me with my writing, but I don't think like typing in a question and getting, as you say, that kind of really problematic answer that isn't researched. So you're not going to get a well-researched response.
Well, those were all of my questions. Your book is out. It'll be out by the time this is shared. And you also have some events coming up. Did you want to promote any of those?
Yeah. Well, my health is not great at the moment, so fingers crossed I can do all my events. My book launch in Melbourne is on the 15th of July, and then I'm speaking at the Flemington Kensington Writers Festival, which is like a new festival, which is in my home suburb, which is lovely.
Great.
Speaking in conversation with Catherine Brabon. That's on the 17th, and then that night I'm reading at QLit at an event for them. I'm launching in Sydney and Tasmania in Hobart as well. So there'll be details of those on my LinkedIn.
The Linktree, yep. I'll put that in there.
Linktree, not LinkedIn. Oh my God.
I'll pop the
Linktree
details in the description for that.
Oh my
and
God.
I will be at your launch in Sydney.
Yeah. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.